Hi, I'm John Byrne with Poets and Quants. I'm on the campus of Indiana University at the Kelley School of Business. We have a great event for you today. We have 3 consecutive live streams, all exploring the MBA as a doorway to changing your career. Most of you already know that many MBA students, in fact, enter the program because they want to switch their career. They may want to switch a discipline, an industry, maybe even a geography, maybe all 3 at one time. So that's a topic we're going to explore thoroughly in all 3 live streams. The first, we're going to talk about why an MBA at Kelley is a great vehicle to use to change your career. Second part of the live stream, we're going to say how people do it. We're going to introduce you to people who are in the mix that are really changing their lives with the MBA. And finally, the what. What does success look like in terms of someone who's made a dramatic career switch? And we have some incredibly dramatic stories to tell you today. How about a writing instructor who now works in consumer goods at General Electric? How about a fitness personal trainer who now works at Microsoft, using the MBA in both cases to leverage and change their lives? So today, right now, we have 2 great guests. We have the Dean of the Kelley School of Business, Idie Kesner. Welcome. And we have the Program Chair of the MBA, Cattani. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, so many people, in fact, come to business school not just to learn accounting, finance, strategy, marketing, but they come to really change who they are and what they want to pursue. Why is, in fact, the MBA kind of like the quintessential tool to change your career and your profession?
I think the MBA is a great way to get an introduction generally to business. You get a chance to explore a variety of different business functional areas sometimes without the deep dive that you would necessarily get in an MS program, a customized or specialized MS program. And when you're changing your career, you need that breadth of perspective. You need that cross-functional disciplinary perspective in order to be successful in whatever executive career follows. So I think that it's particularly well suited for that. And of course, I naturally think the Kelley School is indeed very well suited for helping students make that transition. But the general nature of the coverage that an MBA provides is really a good starting place.
I mean, the other interesting thing about transforming one's career is that it's almost a uniquely American thing. You know, in many parts of the world, who you become at an early age is who you end up as. And here is an opportunity for someone who is in their mid to late 20s, even in many cases in their 30s, who are able to completely make a detour and do a successful career change. And I almost feel like the MBA and sort of our acceptance of that in this country is uniquely American on some level.
And if I might add, it's also the way to take what you've learned before, what you might have been doing before, and take lessons from that and transition it into the next role. So it's not as though you forget everything or all of the experiences that you've had, but you learn to contextualize those experiences and you learn to take them into the next role with a more rigorous and advanced approach to it. And so I think that is, you're right, uniquely a unique feature of the U.S. educational system, but I think it's a very good part of the educational system that we have here in the U.S.
It may be uniquely American, but there are a lot of international students who want to emulate perhaps the American pattern and join our program.
That's for sure. We're going to meet a couple of them later today. So Kyle, you have some statistics on how many people actually come to Kelley and want to change their career.
Yes, it's interesting. So we have designed our program to be the MBA program of choice for career switchers. We did a recent survey of our current students and asked them the question, did you come to Kelley to change your careers? And over 90% of them said yes. But we also asked them...
Did that surprise you?
No.
I mean, I'm surprised that many people are explicitly coming to, in fact, change their careers.
It actually confirmed what we suspected.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because we also asked them the job title of the job that they were leaving and the job title of the job for which they were aspiring. And I was curious to look at the 10% or the less than 10% that said they were not career switchers, and they were still making some significant changes. For example, a veteran who was in supply chain management but wanted to, leaving the military for a civilian career, also in supply chain management. It's also the case that there were a number of our sponsored students who said they weren't switching careers because obviously they're not switching companies,
Right.
but that they were looking to change positions within their company. So maybe is that a career switch? I don't know, but certainly there's a lot of interest in career switching.
So even those who technically said they're not a career switcher, on some level they're switching something.
Correct.
Right.
Including the military person who's basically making the transition to civilian life.
Correct.
And even though he's leveraging skills that he learned in the military, I think the application of those skills in private enterprise would be dramatically different than they were in the military.
Right, and he has to figure out how to find the position that is a good match for him as he changes. So,
Right.
So that's a big switch in itself.
Now what are the ingredients that are in the Kelley MBA that facilitate one's ability to change their life?
Maybe I could start and you could
Sure.
add with some examples
Yeah, sure.
of students who have done this. I think we have a series of support mechanisms in the Kelley MBA that almost create a personal board of directors, if you will. Not a professional group that you might think of as a board of directors, but someone to support you personally in that transition. So we begin with a program, I know, John, you're very familiar with this, called Me Inc., which begins even before classes start here. And that's all about creating a personal brand for you, asking yourself, what are your skills and abilities? What are you good at? And most importantly, how do you sell yourself? And how do you communicate your capabilities, your skills, but also identifying your weaknesses? Because if you understand your weaknesses, you can build your MBA curriculum to fill those gaps. And that's very important. But that's not the end of it. And by the way, Me Inc. also carries forward throughout your time here in the program, so you have many opportunities.
So for the entire 2-year period.
Exactly. There are punctuated points where you can join in again in terms of the Me Inc. type of experience. We also have academic advisors, and of course most programs would have that. You're immediately connected to a career advisor or career coach in this case. We have a series of peer tutors that help our students. We have a program called Academies here, which every student is a part of. And Academy is a career pathing mechanism. You basically join a career path that you're interested in. It's a series of courses, networking events, experiential types of exercises, trips that you might take with your fellow members, projects that you work on together. And that director, who's specifically geared toward your career path, that director helps you as well and is a member of your personal board of directors.
And we're going to meet the director
Exactly.
of the Marketing Academy
Exactly.
a little bit later on.
Exactly.
How many academies do you have?
So we have, I'm trying to,
We currently have 6.
I was
But
going to
that
say
number-
6, right, but there's actually some academies that are in the second year that all students can participate in. That's why I looked at Kyle for the exact number. We have a Leadership Academy that occurs in the second year. We have an Entrepreneurship Academy that occurs in the second year that students can join and add to their existing academy experience. But we also have something called Academy Plus, which is for students who are really interested in the life sciences industry, which is a very unique industry unto itself.
Right.
You have to know the language, you have to make contacts, you have to understand the structure of the industry. So we have traditional academies, 6, and then we have these other groupings we also call academies that you can add and supplement. There's also an alumni mentor that you get when you're here. And so when you think about this broad group of people almost cocooning you, encircling you to help you make that transition, to help answer your questions, to help give you the guidance, and to help you set the curriculum and the path that's going to be important for you. And there are just not many programs that provide that kind of support, and there are not many other types of educational experiences, not like a full-time MBA, that give you that kind of support either. And so I think that's what makes it different. And that's what makes a full-time MBA particularly valuable to career switchers. And I know you have some examples.
Well, yes, and integral also to the career switching path is the summer internship. Because the summer internship provides kind of a low-risk mechanism for both the company and the student to try a position that they may be new to. So the corporation is in for 8 to 10 weeks or 12 weeks, and the student also is limited risk. It's interesting that about 50% of the internships lead to full-time jobs, or lead to full-time offers, of which about half are accepted. So about 25% of the students enter their second year already knowing where they're going, and the others continue working on their networking and other skills. You mentioned that some other examples of students who have made significant career switches. Just from the class that recently graduated, we had a student who was a high school math teacher and football coach, came to Kelley, earned his MBA, graduated last May, and he's now working for Corteva in Oregon. Another student that just graduated last year was from Texas, from Dallas, but she was actually working in Michigan for Fiat Chrysler as a financial analyst, but now after her MBA, she's now with Deloitte in Chicago.
As a consultant, right?
As a consultant, yes, she's a senior consultant.
Yeah.
Another student that also just graduated this last May was a drummer.
A drummer?
Her undergraduate was in jazz performance, and she was in various positions related to her skills as drummers. Well, she's now graduated, and she's now with DuPont as a business development manager in Delaware.
That's a dramatic switch.
This is a fairly dramatic switch. If we go back a couple of years to students who graduated in the class of 2017, one individual from Oregon who was a scientist, a senior research assistant, came to Kelley, and now he's working at Merrill Lynch in New York City in finance, another big shift. One other example that I think is interesting, a student also graduated in the class of 2017, came from New York City where he was a chef. And he joined the MBA program, earned his MBA degree, and he's now a senior analyst for a public retirement system.
Wow.
So that's a pretty dramatic shift as well.
Yes.
So all of these students have made quite the pivot from one to the other, and it's interesting, some of them have made significant geographic shifts as well, whether it's going from Texas to Chicago via Bloomington, or Oregon to New York, or in any number of directions. We gather students from all over the U.S. and we send them all over the U.S.
And if I might add, not everyone joins a corporation, so there is an opportunity at our school to take the entrepreneurial route. And if you do that, you really do need to build some networks, and a full-time MBA program can help you develop those networks so that you're ready to make that switch as well. So when you career switch, one might argue coming from a corporate environment into an entrepreneurial environment is a very big one, and we've had many instances where that's happened.
Now, the things that you have to learn at Kelley through the MBA program to make a successful switch are quite a lot. I mean, many of the people are not only switching industries, you're switching disciplines. So you have to learn a discipline, you have to learn the structure of an industry, you have to learn the companies in it, what are the roles that you can play in them. I mean, it's quite an educational process as well, which is why I think a lot of the coaching is instrumental to making the switch. A lot of the mentoring is, the self-assessment you spoke about through Me Inc. Kelley is one of the few schools, if not the only school, that has an entire building now devoted to career development filled with coaching professionals.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. So we really do cocoon the student and provide all of those resources that they're going to need in order to develop those new knowledge sets, develop those new concepts, make sure they learn them, and then test them out in an experiential way, either through an internship or through a variety of projects that are going to take place in our academy structure or in courses directly. Even our entry point, Beyond Me Inc., which is an integrated core, a truly integrated core that takes the full semester, gives you this sense that functions don't operate independently, they operate together. And it allows students to explore which of those functional areas might be best suited to them, and also, as I mentioned before, to fill those gaps where they might not have the critical knowledge that they need. So no one gets through the program without really understanding all the functional areas, how they work together, and then making selections of where I belong in that.
The academy structure is integral to all of those issues that you raise about having to learn a new discipline,
A new language
industry.
even.
So during the first semester, when they're immersed in the core, we carve out these Academy Fridays where they spend days and they have lots of corporate visitors come in where they talk about the lay of the land, the lay of the industry, what's a career like in marketing or supply chain or finance. They they also spend a week towards the end of October where they go out and visit companies and they see what's it like to be
Right.
in these. And then in the spring, as Idie was mentioning, each academy has experiential learning projects where they're actually working on projects with companies on real problems where they're kind of cutting their teeth on actual problems in the industry. So the academy structure is certainly an integral part of all of this.
And all of this, whether it's the projects you work on in the academy or the internship, gives you stories, if you will, so that when you are interviewing full time, you have something to tell. You have real experiences that you can share with the interviewer to let them know that you have had some experiences that are valuable to them, and you can hit the ground running.
Another key experiential learning opportunity we have is with our global program called GloBase, Global
Right.
Social Enterprise, where the students do experiential learning projects in either Latin America, Africa, or Southeast Asia. And so they're in teams of 5, led by a second-year student who's practicing his or her leadership skills, and they're working with either small companies, nonprofits, or NGOs in a country either in Latin America, Africa, or Southeast Asia. Another talking point as they're on the job market, they can talk about this experience actually working with a real organization and trying to figure out how to improve it.
Right. How many of the career switchers who come to Kelley do you think know what they want to do when they start the program? And how many of them kind of discover what they want to do while they're in the program?
That's an excellent question. I think most of them come in with an idea, but many of them actually kind of change as they go through the program.
So it's not as if you have to know exactly what you want to do when you step through the door.
In fact, I would encourage students to explore.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't had the opportunity to really think about your skills and where you have capabilities, then an MBA program is the perfect place to do that. It's a low risk kind of environment. If you fail at your first attempt at a project or fail at a first attempt in terms of an initiative that you take on, you've learned some valuable lessons. And that failure is far, far less consequential than if you do that in a job situation.
Right.
So he raises an issue. So the first-year students are required to join an academy, and we ask them to make that first decision about a month after they get here. And this raises the issue of how much have they established what they want to do. This year, we've actually tweaked our schedule with the core so that we had the subjects that are most related to the academies. We had a week of them the first week. We actually, they traditionally have been in the second half of the fall semester, so we put them in the first week. Students join the academies, and what we're looking at is how many students want to change subsequent to their initial decision. And in the past, we always get a handful. And so we're curious this year to see if they made a better decision or one that they're sticking with, or if not. We're okay with them switching.
Right.
It sets them back a little bit because they can't go redo the sessions that they missed, but we're agnostic about what the student chooses. We just want them to help them choose the decision that will be best for them.
Maybe I could add an example of this. So I used to run the consulting academy here for many years, and I had a student, Sarah, in the academy, and she got one of those very precious and valuable internships in consulting. And she came back after her summer experience. She set an appointment with me in my office hours, and she sat down. She was very sheepish and, head down. She said, I just have to tell you, I don't think consulting is for me. And she thought I was going to be angry or upset. And I said, that's great that you were able to learn this during the summer. You didn't waste any more energy and time down a path that's not going to be right for you. Let me connect you. What do you think you enjoyed? Let me connect you to someone here who's going to help you in the remainder of your time develop the skills you need. And she ended up in supply chain, which she loved, and it was a great path for her. But being able to test that out and getting that knowledge early on, and then basically knowing that I had this opportunity and now I feel comfortable with my decision is incredibly valuable and really produces greater job satisfaction ultimately.
Yeah. Now, a 2-year in-residence MBA is a serious, life-changing investment. I think that people who enter an MBA, that is a 2-year experience, are stepping up to a very big and challenging experience. Talk a little bit about the ROI. Oftentimes I think we make a mistake by looking at the numbers and rankings that show, okay, the latest graduating class made X amount in starting salary and X amount in sign-on bonus. And everyone is intrigued by the so-called MBA bump. But in truth, that's a small reflection of your ROI on the degree. And it's just a snapshot at one moment, because the rewards are going to come much later on, the real rewards of getting an MBA and changing your career. Speak a little bit about that.
Sure. So the Forbes ranking just came out
Last week.
Last week. We were ranked 19th. And the Forbes measurement is one that's essentially an ROI, where they take, okay, here's all the they looked at the class of 2014 that just graduated 5 years ago, and they said, what has been their salary over the last 4 or 5 years? And then they subtract from that what their salary would have been. So they wanted to see the delta. And then they also subtract the tuition and fees. And so...
and the opportunity cost.
So, yes, because on how much they could have earned.
Yeah.
And so we came out 19th in that. I was intrigued that they did not also subtract off living expenses, depending on where you get your MBA, because if they did, they would find that Bloomington might have been even a little bit more attractive, because
a lot less expensive than other parts of the world.
But to your point about how it's more than just pure financial benefit, that as shown in the Forbes, there's also a component of your career. Another example of one of our alums, this is from an alumni from 2010, a student who I really liked when he was here, and I've kind of tracked his progress. He was from Washington, D.C., he was a chemist, and he came here as a career switcher. And after he left here, he went to Amazon. He was in their web services as what was his position? It was a solutions architect. And he was with Amazon for 4 years. But then he left with a partner to do a startup, a retail startup, which they did for 2 years. And they sold the startup in a successful sale that he said that was 8 digits, which is, I guess, a lot of digits. He had what we call a liquidity event. In this case, that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. He had a lot of options after that. And so I followed. So after that, he did things like he took a 6-month sabbatical to travel around the world with his family. And now he's a manager at a nonprofit in Colorado.
Wow.
So this is an example of someone who came here to switch careers, but afterwards it was clear that he had the tools and the capability to navigate multiple segues into different types of positions.
Right.
And I think that that's one of the things that the MBA will help you to do, is to gain these skills and this ability to pivot and take advantage of the opportunities that might arise.
I think that's exactly right. So it's not just the next career, but it's the ability to move from one to the next, because you've learned really how to intake information, how to make critical decisions, how to set future paths, how to manage your own career through this process. So it's not just the next step. Even if you choose to stay in corporate, even if that's your choice, I would argue that the pace of change within the corporation that you join might be faster than if you don't have an MBA. You might be able to move up faster from one position to the next. So whether we're talking about job satisfaction, whether we're talking about career progression and the speed of that, whether we're talking about the multiple career avenues that might be open to you as you move from one to the other after this, I think there is more to it than just the salary, just the level that you exit with.
Now, there's also personal growth. Now, for many years, you've seen incoming MBAs, let's call that the raw talent, and then you've seen them when they've graduated, and then you see them as alums. Can you speak to how they've actually grown as people?
Yeah. The amazing thing is that our MBAs recognize it even at the end of their internship. What happens is they go on to these internships and they're comparing their skills and capabilities and what they've learned in the first year to their peers coming from other schools. And they often come back with these amazing tales that I was teaching my peers at other schools how to do things that I had learned at Kelley. And again, I take this back to the fact that at Kelley you have this integrated core that happens in the first semester. So you're learning about all the functional areas. Your skills are getting deep very quickly. But on top of that, you have this amazing opportunity with an academy experience. So you are developing skills specific to a path. So it's not surprising to me at all that students go into their internships and they have these epiphanies right away that their skills are really strong and that they have these career opportunities then in front of them. They come back here, they set up their second year with electives and other kinds of things to really build depth at that point. And so I do think they're taking back something that really changes their life, changes the course of their life based on this experience.
Oh, this has been one of the fun parts of my job as the program chair, is that I get to watch this path more closely than just as a professor who sees them in a class.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've done in the 3 years that I've been in this position is we've invited students to join us for exit interviews as they're graduating. So I and my staff put time slot that they sign up for. And this past year, for example, I interviewed about 24 students. And it was so striking to me that almost student after student after student would talk about the transformational experience that they had had in this 2 years. They were at this moment of reflection, thinking about how different a person that they were compared to 2 years earlier, and how much growth they had experienced. I love these exit interviews. I mean, they're just they're so affirming that we're transforming people's lives.
If I might add, I know you're anxious to ask another question, but I can't pass this opportunity to say we are a member of the MBA consortium. In fact, a founding member of the MBA consortium. Each year, right before graduation, the week of graduation, in fact, we gather the graduating MBA consortium students, and each one stands up and tells his or her story. And these are so incredible, where they have come from, what they've developed during their time here, where they're going. To be honest with you, sit there and you listen to these stories and tears start flowing because there's so many people who've come from a background where they never dreamed that this would be possible.
Right.
That this opens a door for them and they're set on a new path. And just to hear their stories alone is inspiring, absolutely inspiring.
See, this is what a simple ROI calculation can't measure.
Right.
And yet it's every bit as important, if not more so, than those salary and bonus numbers that people seem to be obsessed over.
Absolutely.
I mean, the other part of this is, frankly, the difference between a job and a truly fulfilling career that you can throw yourself into to achieve even greater personal growth, greater self-confidence, not only about what you do professionally, but who you are as a person. I think that part of the career switch mentality is you're gaining confidence to actually do something you never thought you would be able to do. And you're choosing something that's going to be far more fulfilling and meaningful to you than just getting a job. Can you talk to how important that part of it is? Because that's another intangible part of the ROI equation to the MBA.
I don't know, what thoughts come to your mind, Idie?
Well, I mean, actually, when you were asking the question, it occurred to me that oftentimes we have women who enter the program, and sometimes women face a very unique position as they're approaching not just an MBA program, but their careers afterwards. There have been ample studies that have been done that talk about women maybe holding themselves back, not putting themselves up for that next level position until they feel they're 90 to 100% of the way there, right? I've done all these tasks, I have all these skills, okay, now I'm ready for that next position. Men tend not to do that, not to hold back, even if they're just 50% of the way there, they're on it to that next level.
This is why Lean In, Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In, addresses this point exactly.
Exactly. So I think your question really, if we dissect and go even into different groups of students, you can see the impact differentially on those groups of students. And it's particularly relevant for women students who need to gain that level of confidence in the program, test their skills, have someone confirm that they are ready for this next position and that they can do this. And we're going to prep you in a way that allows you to feel confident when you walk in that room, whether for an internship interview or a full-time job interview, and then subsequently for your job. So I think that the value of what you're talking about really has even more impact on certain segments of the population where an MBA is particularly valuable.
Yeah, and this all starts before the first class when we have this 2-week orientation of Me Inc. A lot of that is the introspective, what do I value, what is my life story, where am I wanting to go with this, and putting it kind of in the bigger context of life rather than just kind of what job do I want.
Right. And then when you graduate, you're graduating into a network of people who are like you, who went through the same experience, and who are in different places all over the world. That's a network that you can tap into, not only when you graduate, but at any time during your professional career, right?
Absolutely. For the Kelley School, it's a very big network. We're about 117,000 living alums all over the world, not just all over the United States. And they won't hesitate to pick up the phone and help you, whether it's guidance or advice, or really help you navigate a new organization or a new industry. And so again, that's another piece of helping you in terms of this board of directors, this personal board of directors, if you will. As we mentioned, there is an alumni mentor that is assigned or that you have a relationship with, but that's only one piece of it. It's really a great swath of alums, really, again, all over the world, not just coast to coast. And I think that that's a very valuable piece.
Yes, and we engage the alumni within the program. A number of them come back to interview, but not only to interview, but to help prepare the students to interview, to do casing interviews, to do mock interviews, to do these what we call round tables, where they're just right after they come out of May Inc., the less intrusive encounter where it's just kind of an informal discussion around a table. We engage the alumni through multiple steps, in addition to obviously helping us get jobs afterwards and
Right.
all kinds of.
The interesting thing is, one may think that it might be hard to get alumni back here. Bloomington is, it's not in a major city, but it's in a wonderful college town. But the truth of the matter is, the alumni love coming back here because it is such an amazing college experience, college town. And so they enjoy coming back here and interacting with the students and recruiting themselves. And they would be the first ones to hold up their hand in their company, whether Microsoft or some of the financial services companies in New York, and say, send me back to Bloomington, because it makes a great experience for them to continue interacting with us.
Yeah, just a note on Bloomington. Bloomington is this wonderful small college town with kind of the benefits of a small town, but also the benefits of a large town, but at a lower cost. So we have obviously college sports, arts and entertainment, and all of the restaurants and bars and other things that college students like. Many of our students, MBA students, live right downtown, where there are all these restaurants and bars where they stay out way past my bedtime. But others, some of the students with families, for example, live 2 or 3 miles from campus in what would be a very residential, very affordable, not quite as close to the downtown activities, but
Right.
But a very affordable place to live.
And in fact, we have specific clubs and organizations for
Yes.
students who come with families. We have partner
We have the
clubs,
partners clubs.
and family groupings, and they feel a part of the community instantly. The students bond together very quickly here, which is a nice feature. If you're only going to be in a full-time MBA program for 2 years, bonding quickly is very important, because that's going to be your first network as you go forward. You'll leverage the other network of alumni, but your first network is going to be your cohort. Perhaps the one group that's just before you, the one group that's after you, but those groupings of students, very important to leverage that. And so having these activities for you as an individual, for you and your partner, and for you and your family is very important.
And the clubs and organizations actually form an important part of the career switching tool kit, right? Because if you want to become a consultant, there's a consulting club. And the consulting club will help you prepare for those grueling case study interviews that are common in the consulting industry. And if you want to be an investment banker and maybe work on Wall Street,
That's
I'm
right.
sure you have a finance
That's
club.
right. That's right.
And on and on. So the club structure, student run and student supported, is a key part of the toolkit that you provide
Absolutely.
to allow someone to make an easier transition into something very different.
Absolutely.
So while we talk about our alumni base as a huge network, the network of students within your class become your tightest network. And
Right.
all of the activities and the clubs and the classroom and the teams and all of these things form a really tight-knit group. And this is a network that is available to you throughout your career. It's the closest links, if you will.
And Kyle, you mentioned earlier the importance of an internship in a 2-year MBA program, which you wouldn't get in an accelerated kind of program. What we didn't say, which is important for people to know because not everyone knows this, is that there are some industries that see the internship as the only entry ramp into a career. That's certainly true in investment banking, where they really want to get to know you before they offer you a job. That's true to a certain extent even in consulting,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So in some ways, that internship is crucial to actually enter some fields. And if you don't have it, it's going to be so much more difficult to be able to make the transition.
Especially where you enter following
Yeah.
a 2-year MBA program. You don't, unlike an undergraduate program, you're not entering at the base level, you're entering at a higher level. And I would even argue, add to that mix, life sciences or healthcare. You have to understand a little bit about the industry, even to have a productive interview, let alone to join that organization. Because you're joining at a higher level, having this 2-year experience where you can explore that, learn the language, have experiential exercises, work on projects, is vital to really making that next step. So full-time MBA programs can do exactly that. It can build the base for you so you're ready for that next level.
Now let's get rid of a myth. I had the pleasure of going to New York, and of course I live in the Bay Area, and interviewing some of your alums. And I interviewed alums in New York who made the transition into investment banking, and I rode with them in taxi cabs in New York and interviewed them. And in the Bay Area, I rode with alums who work in the tech sector in a rented Tesla and interviewed them there. And actually, those videos are going to be shown. They're like mini documentaries that will be shown in the future. But the point of all this is you can come to Bloomington, Indiana, have the quintessential college town experience, and then end up working in New York City, in San Francisco, in Seattle, in Chicago, in London, in Paris. You're not confined to work in the Midwest if that's not what you want.
Exactly right. And I would
Okay.
argue it's even better. And the reason is when you're in this quintessential college town, there are fewer distractions, so you can really
That's
concentrate
true.
on yourself. And if you're going to take 2 years and do this, if you're going to invest this amount of time and energy in order to have this career switch, what better opportunity than in a place where you still have these wonderful amenities, but you can concentrate on yourself. Very few distractions going on. And I just think this is the best place to make that commitment.
So about 20% of our students end up on the West Coast.
Wow.
And almost that many in the Northeast, so the
Yeah.
New York area. Chicago's a big draw, but we go to the Southeast, to Atlanta, to Houston. We go to the Southwest. So yeah, our students go everywhere. And as you point out, more students are now going overseas. We don't have too many that go to Europe, but we have a number that are going to Southeast Asia. And actually, we do have a few that go to Europe, but it is clear that they go everywhere.
Now, you also have things that we haven't talked about that help people make career transitions. One is a new certificate in product management. Now, many people who may or may not know that one of the key MBA jobs in a tech company is product management jobs. So talk a little bit about how that certificate came about and what it's most used for.
Sure. This is we're very excited about this. It was just approved last month, as a matter of fact. The product management certificate that we've designed is for those students who want to work as product managers, which are at the intersection of technology and business and design. And it was clear to us through our students and through our alumni and through our employers that there's demand for this at all levels. And so we spoke with a number of our alumni who are product managers at firms like Google and Apple and Facebook. And we spoke to our faculty who are experts in this. And we talked to some of our employers. And we've designed a certificate that essentially takes 15 credits. There's a small section of required classes that you must take these, a small section of take one of 2 of these, and then a list of electives depending on how you want to focus. There's a lot of interest, for example, on product management in tech industry. So a number of the electives are related to learning about technology and how product management happens in those firms in that industry.
So you take a sequence of these courses to get the certificate. How many courses do you take?
So it's 15 credits altogether.
Okay.
So that's like 9 credits,
Right.
or 9 courses, each of 1.5 credits.
Wow.
Or no, I guess that's well, yeah, it's 15 credits total is the way it works out. And so there's still a lot of leeway in it. So we just launched this. We're very excited. I think that there are a number of students who are going to be signing up, and we're excited to see where it goes. We've also in the last year introduced a joint degree so you get a full-time MBA and you get a Master's of Science in Information Systems, an MSIS degree, which is, by the way, STEM certified, which has some potential benefits for international students in terms of the
You can apply for 2 additional years of OPT,
yes, you get 3 years
which
of
gives you
OPT.
3 years,
Yes.
which
Correct.
also gives you 3-year shot at an H-1B
That's right.
visa.
Right. So these students, and the emphasis in information systems is on digital enterprise, which is kind of at the intersection of things, the Internet of Things and
Right.
people and decisions. And so these students are actually building a broader toolkit that we feel will make them more marketable in whatever path they're wanting to go.
And the most likely job one would get from that program would be what?
Well, this is
What kind of
interesting.
jobs?
Yeah, so far what we've discovered is it's just that these candidates are more competitive in kind of the same jobs that they might have taken, but firms that realize that they're going to be increasing the emphasis on digital enterprise and these activities. So we just introduced this last year, and our first, we have 11 students, second years now, who are taking this, and they had a very positive experience in their internships, which were, by the way, not necessarily, they weren't hired into those internships because of this joint degree, but they discovered that it was incredibly valuable when they went into their internships. And I'm guessing that will play well for them as they go into the full-time positions as well. So this is a new one. We're trying to figure out exactly how best to position it to employers, but employers seem to be very, very receptive. And
Is that a 3-year program?
No, it's actually interesting. They have to get an additional 15 credits, and some of those credits are obtained during the summer, but during their internship. They actually do an online, so they're at their internship and they're doing an evening online course. And then they've managed to just kind of cram in the credits. We had originally designed it with the thought that they would probably have to extend maybe a semester, but all 11 students are figuring out how to graduate with their MBA class in May.
2 years?
In 2 years. So it's a second degree, a Master's
Wow.
of Science in Information System, and they will, they're not going to be spending a lot of time on the golf course, shall we say. Their last semester in the MBA program, they have a very full schedule, but they're going to finish.
I think
in May.
that Kyle's point is that sometimes students, as they're finishing their MBA program, have a little bit of time on their hands, and some students make good use of that time and they pursue these different paths. Just generally, if you take what we've been talking about here, we have majors like every other MBA program, and many of our students choose to double major. We have these academies that give you a career path that you can go through. We have certificates. We even have these add-on MS degrees that you can pursue. By the way you mix and match these things, you can customize your degree. You can create this very unique combination because we're a large school, we're a very large faculty. We have a lot of electives and a lot of opportunities, and that provides opportunities you wouldn't necessarily be able to get at other places.
We have a large online program, and so there are a number of master's degrees that are online. And we have some students now who are exploring, figuring out how to get a joint full-time MBA, but at the same time getting an online. For example, we had some students this past year that graduated with a Master's of Science in Business Analytics. So they did that through the online program concurrently with the MBA, so they were able to, again, get the additional credits. And
That's the benefit of this big portfolio that we have, this big faculty, these broad array of courses, and this broad array of degrees.
And we're exploring even more ways to take advantage of the fact that we do have this portfolio of programs that we can tap into and provide flexibility and options for our students. And it's kind of exciting. Students are very intrigued by this.
There you go. Well, would you believe that her time is out? I don't.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Idie, Kyle, thank you so much for all your insights and help. This is the first of 3 live streams. Our second one will have the legendary Eric Johnson here, who's the head of career services, and 3 second-year students. Each of them has done already an internship during the summer that will be pivotal to their career choices in the future. So join us for the next session. which is entitled How Kelley Makes Career Transition Successful. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Thanks for watching.